What happens when a human defies a galactic empress in front of her entire court? Ethan Voss expected negotiations, not a duel to the death with her deadliest warrior, and certainly not being forced into marriage with her. But when that warrior, Kaelith Vera, turns out to be more than just a blade and armor, and their bond sparks a prophecy that could end a war, they'll have to choose, survive apart, or fight together for something more than peace. They were enemies. Now, they're married and on the run. What happens when a human pilot and an alien warrior defy an empire, fall in love, and spark a galactic war? Hit subscribe for more epic HFY love stories and thrilling sci-fi twists. The starship Aurora's Edge carved a silent path through the void, its hull glinting under the violet glow of Sylvaris's twin moons. Inside, Ethan Voss adjusted his worn leather jacket, the only remnant of his days as a mercenary. His brown hair fell messily over his forehead, framing sharp green eyes that scanned the alien world beyond the viewport. Sylvaris loomed below, a planet of crystalline spires piercing the heavens, their surfaces pulsing with light that seemed to breathe with the emotions of those nearby. The capital city, Erindril, was a labyrinth of glass and energy, where every wall shimmered like liquid starlight, reflecting the pride of an empire that ruled 15 star systems. Ethan's boots echoed on the docking platform as he stepped into the grand hall of the Sylvaris Palace. The air hummed with a faint electric charge, and the walls flickered, gold for awe, red for tension, as a crowd of Sylvaris nobles turned to watch. Their skin shimmered in shades of silver and emerald, their eyes glowing like distant nebulae. To them, humans were little more than curious pests, a young species barely worth noticing. Ethan smirked. Let them stare. He wasn't here to bow. At the hall's far end, atop a throne of woven crystal, sat Empress Valthyra. Her silver skin gleamed like polished metal, her gown a cascade of metallic feathers that shifted with her every breath, sharp enough to cut. Her voice, when she spoke, was a melody laced with venom, as if she could bend minds with a whisper. Ethan Voss, emissary of Earth, she said, her words slithering through the air. You come to beg for scraps of our resources? Ethan crossed his arms, his stance loose but defiant. Not begging, Your Majesty. Negotiating. Earth needs thorium for our reactors. You need our trade routes. Sounds like a fair deal to me. The nobles gasped, their murmurs rippling through the hall like a disturbed pond. The walls pulsed crimson. Valthyra's eyes narrowed, twin slits of molten gold. You presume much for a creature from a speck of a planet. I have a task to seal our alliance, one suited to your boldness. Ethan tilted his head, sensing a trap. I'm listening. Valthyra leaned forward, her feathers glinting like blades. The Crimson Nebula harbors a rare creature, the Starworm. Its scales power our greatest weapons. Lead a team to capture one, and Earth will have its thorium. The memory hit Ethan like a plasma bolt. His last mission in a nebula 5 years ago. The screams of his squad as their ship burned, the silence when he woke alone in the wreckage. He'd sworn never to chase ghosts in those death clouds again. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed steady. No deal. I'm a pilot, not a beast hunter. Find someone else to play fetch. The hall fell silent, the walls frozen in a deep scarlet. Valthyra's smile was a razor's edge. You dare refuse me? Her voice wove through his mind, tugging at his resolve. But Ethan shook it off, his mercenary days teaching him to resist sweeter lies than hers. Yeah, I dare, he shot back, grinning despite the danger. If I pull this off, do I get a week off too? A ripple of shock ran through the nobles. Some sneered, others leaned forward, intrigued. The walls flickered gold, as if the palace itself was curious. Valthyra rose, her gown hissing against the floor. You need a lesson in humility, human. She raised a hand, and the crowd parted like water. From the shadows stepped Kaelith Vera, champion of Sylvaris. Her emerald skin shimmered under the hall's light, each movement rippling with a faint glow, like sunlight on a forest stream. Her white hair flowed past her waist, braided with threads of silver that caught the moon's glow. Her armor, black and sleek, hugged her athletic frame, accentuating every curve with deadly precision. Violet eyes burned with quiet intensity, locking onto Ethan like a predator sizing up prey. In her hand, a hilt hummed softly, unignited but promising a blade of pure energy. Ethan's breath caught, not from fear, but something else, something he didn't dare name. She was a storm made flesh, beautiful and terrifying. He forced a smirk. Nice entrance. Do all your warriors look like they stepped out of a myth? Kaelith's lips twitched, almost a frown, but her eyes flickered with something unreadable. Silence, human, she said, her voice low, melodic, edged with steel. You will learn respect. Valthyra's laugh was a cold chime. Kaelith, my blade, teach this insolent creature his place. Challenge him to combat. Break his spirit before my court. Kaelith stepped closer, her boots silent on the crystal floor. As she passed Ethan, her shoulder brushed his, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through him. Her skin was warm, almost electric, and for a split second, a wave of light pulsed from her shoulder where they'd touched, rippling like water under starlight. Ethan froze, his pulse quickening. What the hell was that? Kaelith stiffened, her violet eyes darting to his, a faint shimmer crossing her face before she turned away, hiding whatever she'd felt. Nice glow, Ethan said, recovering with a grin. Does your skin light up when you're mad? Or is that just for me? Kaelith's gaze snapped back, sharp as a blade. Mock while you can, human. Tomorrow, you'll kneel. But her voice wavered, just enough to betray a crack in her armor. Ethan leaned closer, voice low. I don't kneel easy, but I'm looking forward to the dance. The walls pulsed gold again, brighter, as if the palace fed on their tension. The nobles whispered, their eyes darting between the human who dared jest and the champion who never lost. A few younger Sylvaris, clad in flowing silks, exchanged glances, their curiosity outweighing their scorn. The guards, hulking figures in obsidian armor, tightened their grips on their spears, ready for any move Ethan might make. Valthyra sank back in her throne, her smile cruel. At dawn, in the lunar arena, you will face Kaelith's blade. The court will watch your humiliation, human. Perhaps then you'll reconsider my offer. Ethan shrugged, unfazed. Dawn works. Mind if I grab breakfast first? The nobles gasped again, but a few stifled laughs broke through. The walls shimmered with streaks of silver. Amusement, perhaps, from a palace enused to defiance. Valthyra's eyes blazed, but she waved a hand. Take him to his quarters. Let him savor his last night of arrogance. As guards escorted Ethan away, he caught Kaelith watching him, her violet eyes unreadable. She turned, her hair catching the light like a comet's tail, and vanished into the shadows. Ethan's grin faded, replaced by a flicker of doubt. He'd faced worse odds as a mercenary. Pirates, drones, collapsing stars, but Kaelith was different. She wasn't just a fighter. She was a force, and that brief touch had stirred something he couldn't shake. Alone in his guest chamber, a Spartan room with walls that glowed faintly blue, Ethan paced. The memory of the Nebula mission crept back, his squad's laughter, their plans for drinks after, gone in a flash of fire. He'd survived by grit and luck, but luck didn't win duels. He tapped his comms, the holographic face of Colonel Mara Quinn flickering to life. Ethan, you've got a knack for trouble, she said, her tone half exasperated. What's this about a duel? They want me to play gladiator, Ethan replied, leaning against the wall. Some champion named Kaelith, built like she could snap a ship in half. Mara's eyes narrowed. Don't underestimate her. Sylvaris warriors train from birth. And Ethan, don't start a war. No promises, he said, flashing a grin before cutting the call. He sank onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, where faint lights danced like distant stars. Kaelith's face lingered in his mind, those eyes that glow. He shook his head. Focus, Voss. She's the enemy. For now. Across the palace, in a training chamber lit by floating orbs, Kaelith swung her practice blade, its energy humming like a trapped storm. Each strike was precise, deadly, but her mind wasn't on the duel. The human's voice echoed, cocky, unafraid, unlike anyone she'd met. His touch, brief as it was, had sent a spark through her, a betrayal of her disciplined heart. Sylvaris taught that emotions were chains, yet Ethan's defiance stirred something long buried. She paused, her blade dimming, and caught her reflection in the crystal wall. Her violet eyes were haunted, lonely. She gripped the hilt tighter. "He's nothing," she whispered, but the words felt hollow. Tomorrow, she'd crush him. She had to. For her Empress. For herself. The twin moons sank toward the horizon, casting Arindril in a silver haze. Dawn was coming, and with it, a reckoning neither Ethan nor Kaelith could predict. Dawn broke over Sylvaris like a wave of liquid silver, the twin moons fading into a sky streaked with violet and gold. The lunar arena loomed at the heart of Arindril, a massive ring of polished obsidian suspended over a lake of shimmering energy. Its surface pulsed with blue light, rippling like a living thing, casting shadows that danced across the stands. Thousands of Sylvaris filled the tiered seats, nobles in glowing silks, warriors in sleek armor, their emerald and silver skin glinting under the rising sun. The air buzzed with anticipation, their cheers a low roar that shook the arena's crystal pillars. Above, holographic orbs floated, projecting every move for the Empire to witness. The lake below hummed, its energy ready to incinerate any fool who fell. Ethan Voss stepped onto the arena's edge, his boots scuffing the smooth stone. His leather jacket was gone, replaced by a fitted combat tunic, black, simple, earth-made. In his hand, a Sylvaris energy sword hummed softly, its blade a ribbon of white plasma that flickered like a trapped star. He rolled his shoulders, green eyes scanning the crowd. Big show, bigger stakes. He'd faced worse, pirate ambushes, collapsing hulls, but this was personal. A grin tugged at his lips. Let's give him a hell of a performance. Across the ring, Kaelith Vera emerged from a curtain of light. Her black armor gleamed, hugging her curves like a second skin, her white hair braided tightly, silver threads catching the dawn. Her violet eyes burned, fierce but guarded, as she ignited her sword, a blade of violet fire that sang with menace. The crowd roared louder, chanting her name, Vera, Vera. She was their champion, their myth, and Ethan was just a human speck daring to challenge her. He raised his sword, tilting his head. Nice sword, Vera. Matches your eyes. Planned that, didn't you? Kaelith's gaze sharpened, but her lips twitched, betraying a flicker of surprise. Save your breath, human, she said, her voice low, cutting through the crowd's din. You'll need it to beg. Ethan chuckled, circling her. Begging's not my style, but I'm a great dancer. Want a lead? The orbs above zoomed closer, catching every word, and the crowd's cheers faltered, replaced by curious murmurs. The arena's walls pulsed gold, feeding on the tension. Kaelith lunged, her blade of violet arc aimed at Ethan's chest. He sidestepped, quick as a shadow, his mercenary days kicking in, boxing footwork mixed with dirty tricks learned in backwater ports. The blades clashed, white against violet, spitting sparks that hissed into the lake below. Kaelith's attacks were a storm, precise, relentless, each swing a masterpiece of Sylvaris training. Sweat beaded on her emerald skin, catching the light like scattered jewels. But Ethan was no ordinary foe. He ducked a high slash, rolling low, and flicked his blade at her ankle, forcing her to leap back. You're fast, he said, panting, but I'm scrappy. But you don't get that in fancy sword school. Her eyes narrowed, but inside, Kaelith's mind churned. He fights with purpose, she thought, her heart pounding. Not for glory, like Sylvaris warriors, but for something deeper, honor, maybe pride. His movements were chaos, unpredictable, unlike any opponent she'd faced. A human shouldn't be this good. Yet, as their blades locked, his green eyes met hers, steady, fearless, and a spark of doubt flickered in her chest. Why does he not yield? Ethan saw the hesitation, a split-second pause in her rhythm. He grinned wider. "Come on, Vera, don't hold back. I'm having fun." He feinted left, then spun right, his blade grazing her arm guard. A warning, not a wound. The crowd gasped, the lake flaring brighter below. Kaelith growled, her blade slashing faster, but Ethan danced around her, his steps a mix of boxer's swagger and pilot's precision. He was tiring, sure, but he'd learned long ago, wars weren't won by strength alone. "You mock me," Kaelith hissed, her voice tight, her violet eyes blazing with something new. Respect, maybe, or frustration. Her braid swung like a pendulum, matted with sweat. "Nah," Ethan shot back, dodging a thrust that singed his sleeve. "I'm just saying, you swing that sword like a poem. Too bad I'm bad at reading." The crowd laughed, a few nobles clapping despite themselves. The walls flashed silver, amusement cutting through their scorn. Kaelith's jaw tightened, but her lips curved just for a moment before she lunged again. Ethan saw his chance. He dropped low, letting her blade sail over his head, and tackled her. Not with his sword, but his body, a move straight from a bar brawl. They hit the ground, his blade at her throat, hers pinned beneath his knee. The arena fell silent. The lake hummed deafening in the void. Kaelith stared up at him, her chest heaving, violet eyes wide with shock. Ethan leaned closer, voice low. "Told you I dance different." She swallowed, her throat bobbing under his blade. "I yield," she whispered, the words tearing at her pride. She swallowed, her throat bobbing under his blade. "I yield," she whispered, the words tearing at her pride. The crowd erupted, half in outrage, half in awe. The orb spun wildly, broadcasting the impossible. A human had defeated their champion. Ethan stood, offering her a hand. She ignored it, rising alone, her face a mask of fury and something softer, buried deep. The lake dimmed, the walls pulsing red with the crowd's anger. From her throne at the arena's apex, Empress Valthara rose, her metallic gown hissing like a serpent. Her golden eyes burned, her voice a blade of ice. "Kaelith Vera, you have shamed me. Your failure demands a price." Kaelith bowed her head, fists clenched. "Name it, my Empress." Valthara's smile was cruel, sharp as broken glass. "You will bind yourself to this human in marriage. Your disgrace will be eternal, and you will leave Sylvaris forever." Ethan's jaw dropped. "Whoa, hold up. Marriage? I didn't even get her a ring." The crowd gasped, then laughed, the walls flickering gold again. Kaelith's head snapped up, her eyes blazing at Ethan, but Valthara ignored him. "The rite begins now," she declared, her voice weaving through the air, heavy with power. Guards ushered them to a platform at the arena's center, where a Sylvaris priestess waited, her robes glowing like moonlight. She held a coil of energy, a shimmering cord of blue and gold that writhed like a living thing. The crowd fell silent, the air thick with ritual weight. Strange instruments, stringed harps that glowed with each pluck, filled the arena with a haunting melody, their notes shifting as the cord touched Ethan's wrist. It burned, not with pain, but with feeling, Kaelith's feelings. Her shame, her rage, her hidden fear crashed into him like a wave. He glanced at her, seeing her flinch as the cord bound her too, her violet eyes meeting his for a fleeting moment. "She feels me," he realized, his resolve, his warmth, his stubborn spark. The priestess chanted, her voice echoing like a distant star. "By this bond, you are one in exile and fate." The cord tightened, its light pulsing with their heartbeats, blue blending into gold until it flared and vanished, leaving only a faint glow on their skin. The walls shimmered, reflecting their union, gold for Ethan, violet for Kaelith, a dance of colors that felt alive. The crowd was silent, torn between awe and disgust. Ethan cleared his throat, turning to Kaelith. "So, do we cut a cake now, or?" She glared, her voice a low growl. "Don't mock this, human. You've ruined me." He softened, stepping closer. "Hey, I'm not pretending this is fun for me either. But we're in this mess together, yeah?" Kaelith pushed past him, her shoulder brushing his with a spark that made him pause. "Don't act like you care," she snapped, but her voice cracked, betraying a wound deeper than the duel. "I'm not acting," Ethan said quietly, watching her stalk away. The words hung in the air, unanswered. Above, Valthyra leaned toward her advisor, a gaunt Sylvaris with eyes like dying stars. "The champion knows too much," she whispered, her voice a hiss. "This marriage will bury her secrets, and him with her." The advisor nodded, his smile thin. "A clever exile, my Empress." Ethan caught the exchange from the corner of his eye, his grin fading. Something's off. The crowd began to disperse, their murmurs a tide of shock and intrigue. The walls settled into a muted silver, as if the palace itself was plotting. Guards escorted Ethan and Kaelith to a shuttle, their new life, or sentence, waiting beyond the stars. As the shuttle doors closed, Ethan leaned back, glancing at Kaelith's rigid silhouette against the viewport. "Guess we're hitched now, Vera. Hope you like long road trips." She didn't look at him, but her lips twitched just enough to spark a flicker of hope. The shuttle hummed, lifting off into the violet dawn, carrying them toward an uncertain fate. The shuttle stellar dawn streaked through the void, a speck of silver against the endless black. Inside, Ethan Voss gripped the controls, his green eyes narrowed at the viewport. Kaelith Vera sat beside him, her emerald skin glowing faintly under the dim lights, her violet eyes locked on the scanners. The twin moons of Sylvaris faded behind them, replaced by a swirling chaos of green and red. A plasma storm crackling with energy, spitting arcs of light that lit up the cockpit. "Nice honeymoon spot, huh?" Ethan said, flashing a grin as he yanked the yoke left, dodging a bolt that sizzled past the hull. Kaelith didn't look at him, her fingers flying over the shield controls. "Focus, human, or we're ash. Call me Ethan, will ya? We're married now. Might as well get cozy." Her jaw tightened, but before she could snap back, the scanners blared. 3 jagged ships, Drenver raiders, all spikes and rust, burst from the storm, their cannons glowing orange. Ethan cursed under his breath. "Guess Valthyra sent a goodbye gift. Sweet lady." "They're locking on," Kaelith said, her voice sharp. "Raise the shields." "Shields? This bucket's got half a battery left." Ethan jerked the ship right, spiraling through a cloud of debris, a shattered asteroid field caught in the storm. "Hang on, Vera. Time for some fancy flying." The shuttle shuddered as a blast grazed its wing, sparks flying across the console. Kaelith slammed a button, rerouting power. "You call this flying? I've seen drones do better." "Ouch, that hurts." Ethan shot back, grinning despite the chaos. "How about you shoot him down, huh? Got that fancy sword arm, use it." "I'm not a gunner, you fool," she hissed, but her eyes flicked to the weapons panel. "Tell me what to do." "Point and click, babe." Red button, big boom. He banked hard, dodging another salvo, the storm's green light painting their faces. "Come on, show me that Sylvaris precision." Kaelith glared but hit the controls, firing a burst of plasma that clipped a raider's engine. It spun out, crashing into a rock with a silent flare. "Good enough?" she asked, her tone smug. "Not bad for a rookie," Ethan said, winking. "One down, 2-2, oh crap." A tractor beam snagged the shuttle, dragging it toward the lead raider. The hull groaned, lights flickering. "Cut the power," Kaelith shouted, unbuckling to reach the rear console. "I'll reroute it." "Cut it. We'll drift." Ethan protested, but he flipped the switch, plunging them into darkness. The storm outside roared, a beast of light and fury. Kaelith stumbled as the ship rocked, slamming into Ethan's side. He caught her, his hand brushing her waist, firm, warm, her armor clinging tight. A ripple of light pulsed from her skin, soft as a heartbeat, and he froze, feeling the curve of her hip under his fingers. You okay there?" he muttered, voice low. She jerked back, her violet eyes flashing. "Your hand wander, Ethan. Focus. Just checking if you're real, Vera," he teased, grinning as he let go. "Glowy skin's a bonus." "Idiot," she snapped, but her breath hitched, her gaze lingering a second too long before she dove for the console. "Power's back, get us out." Ethan slammed the throttle, the ship lurching free as the tractor beam faltered. "Hold tight," he yelled, diving toward Klyros, a planet of purple skies and floating cities shimmering below. A final blast clipped the engines, smoke billowing, and he wrestled the yoke. Crash landing incoming. The stellar dawn hit Klyros like a skipped stone, skidding across a dusty plateau before grinding to a stop near a cliff. Ethan coughed, waving smoke from his face. "Welcome to Klyros, Mrs. Voss. 5-star landing, right?" Kaelith unstrapped, glaring. "You're insane. And you're welcome," he quipped, kicking the hatch open. Outside, Klyros buzzed, a sprawling market of hovering platforms, ships darting like birds, the air thick with spice and oil. Aliens of every shape, 6-winged traders, robotic hawkers, haggled under a sky streaked with violet clouds. "We need cover," Kaelith said, scanning the chaos. "They'll track us." "Relax, I know a guy," Ethan replied, leading her through the crowd. "I will once we find a bar." They ducked into a ramshackle inn, its walls a patchwork of wood and metal, lit by flickering orbs that cast wild shadows. A 3-eyed innkeeper, skin like cracked leather, leaned over the counter. "Rooms cost extra," he rasped, eyeing Kaelith's armor. "No trouble, yeah?" "No trouble," Ethan said, sliding a credit chip. "Just a bed and some quiet." "Quiet's extra," the innkeeper grunted, tossing a key. "Upstairs. Don't break nothing." Ethan smirked, turning to Kaelith. "Hear that? We're VIPs now." She rolled her eyes, brushing past him to the stairs. "You talk too much." "Better than screaming," he called after her, dodging a glare sharp enough to cut steel. Their room was a closet, 2 cots, a cracked window, and a hum of alien music seeping through the walls. Ethan flopped onto a cot, pulling out his comms. "Time to phone home. Hope Mara's in a good mood." The hologram flickered, revealing Colonel Mara Quinn. Short hair, stern face, all business. "Voss, what the hell's going on?" she barked. "Sylvaris comms are screaming about you." "Long story," Ethan said, leaning back. "Got hitched, got chased, landed on Klyros. You know, Tuesday stuff." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Hitched? To who?" Ethan nodded at Kaelith, who stood by the window, arms crossed. "Her. Say hi, honey." Kaelith shot him a look. "I am Kaelith Vera, warrior of Sylvaris." "Not his honey." Mara blinked, then frowned. "A Sylvaris?" "Ethan, she's one of them." "What's the game?" "No game," Ethan said, serious now. "Valthyra set us up. Raiders on our tail." "Something's brewing, Mara." "She's right." Kaelith cut in, stepping closer. "The Empress plans war. Earth's colonies are targets." Mara's jaw tightened. "Proof." "Her word's good enough for me," Ethan said, meeting Kaelith's gaze. "She's stuck with me now." "Stupid human trust," Kaelith muttered, but her tone softened, just a hair. Mara sighed. "Fina, lay low, Voss. If Sylvaris moves, we're not ready. Don't start a damn war." "No promises," Ethan grinned, cutting the call. He turned to Kaelith, who was staring out at Klyros's floating lights. "So, wife, what's the plan? Hide here or steal a ship?" "We're not safe," she said, voice low. "Valthyra won't stop." "Then we move fast," he replied, standing. "But first, food. Can't fight on an empty stomach." She turned, raising an eyebrow. "You think of food now?" "Hey, I just flew us through a storm, dodged pirates, and got us a room," he said, hands on hips. "I deserve a snack. You coming or what?" Kaelith hesitated, then nodded, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "Lead, human. But if you crash again, I'll leave you." "Deal." Ethan laughed, heading for the door. "Stick with me, Vera. I'm full of surprises." The inn's music pulsed louder as they stepped out, Klyros's chaos swallowing them whole. Above, the storm faded, but a new threat loomed, Valthyra's reach stretching across the stars. The purple haze of Klyros hung heavy over the floating markets, a labyrinth of platforms buzzing with life. Ships hummed overhead, their engines a low growl, while traders shouted deals in a dozen tongues. Clicks hisses, and songs. Ethan Voss weaved through the crowd, his green eyes darting between stalls. Beside him, Kaelith Vera moved like a shadow, her emerald skin catching the glow of orb lanterns, her white braids swaying with each step. The air smelled of spice and metal, sharp and alive. "We need a comms relay," Ethan said, sidestepping a six-winged vendor hawking glowing fruit. "Something to boost the signal. Mara's gonna kill me if I don't check in." Kaelith scanned the chaos, her violet eyes narrowing. "This place is a mess. How do you even find anything?" "Charm and luck," he grinned, stopping at a stall piled with junk, wires, gears, and stones that pulsed like tiny stars. "Watch and learn, Vera." The stall owner, a squat alien with 4 arms and a voice like gravel, looked up. "What you want, smooth skin?" "Comms relay. Small, strong, cheap," Ethan said, leaning on the counter. "And maybe something shiny for the lady." Kaelith glared. "I don't need trinkets, Ethan." "Too late," he said, snagging a thumb-sized crystal that shimmered blue. He tossed it to her. "Matches your glow. Keep it." She caught it, rolling her eyes but slipping into her pocket. "Foolish human." The trader chuckled, digging out a relay, a dented box with blinking lights. 50 credits. No defunds. 40, and you throw in a smile. Ethan bargained, flashing his own. "Done," the trader rasped, shoving the relay over. "Your trouble, smooth skin." "Always." Ethan winked, tucking the device under his arm. He turned to Kaelith. "See? Charm works." She snorted, a sound almost like a laugh. "You're impossible." They found a quiet corner near a food stall, the air thick with the scent of grilled meat and something sweet. Ethan plopped onto a crate, tearing into a skewer. "Seat, Vira. Feel up. We're not running on fumes yet." Kaelith hesitated, then sat across from him, picking at her own food. "You eat like a beast." "Gotta keep up with you," he said, chewing. "So what's Sylvaris like? Besides the whole kneel or die vibe?" She stared at her skewer, her voice softening. "Cold. Ordered. Warriors are everything. Honor above all. My mother," she was one, "died fighting." "Sounds tough," Ethan said, leaning forward. "She teach you the sword?" "Yes," Kaelith replied, her fingers tightening. "And to never feel. Love was her weakness. She fell for an outsider, paid with her life." Ethan whistled low. "Harsh rules. On Earth, we've got beaches, big blue waves. Jazz music that makes you want to dance. Love's messy, sure, but it's worth it." Her violet eyes flicked to him, curious. "You've loved?" "Once or twice," he shrugged, grinning. "Crashed and burned, mostly. Keeps life interesting." "You're strange," she said, but her lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. "Sylvaris would break you." "Nah," he laughed. "I break them first. Too much fun to be had." The sun dipped lower, painting Clyros in shades of lavender. They hauled the relay back to the inn, its flickering orbs casting wild shadows across the cramped room. Ethan dropped onto a cot, kicking off his boots. "One bed's busted. Guess we're sharing." Kaelith froze, her armor clinking as she turned. "I'll sleep on the floor." "No way," he said, patting the cot. "Plenty of room. I don't bite, unless you ask." She glared, but the cot's creak won her over. "Move over, human." "Ethan," he corrected, scooting aside. "Say it." "Ethan." 2 syllables, easy. "Fine." "Ethan," she muttered, sitting stiffly. Her armor pressed against him, cold and unyielding. "Better," he grinned. "Now, let's get that tinkin off you." "Can't sleep in it." She hesitated, then nodded. "Help me. The straps are tight." He knelt behind her, fingers brushing the clasps at her shoulders. His thumb grazed her collarbone, smooth, warm, her emerald skin shimmering under his touch like a starfield waking up. A pulse of light rippled from the spot, soft and electric, and Ethan's breath caught. "Whoa, you're a light show," he murmured, voice low. Kaelith tensed, her violet eyes darting to his. "Stop staring, Ethan. Undo it." "Tough gig," he teased, lingering a second before unfastening the strap. "You sure you're not flirting with all this glowing?" "You're bold," she said, her voice a mix of steel and something softer. "Too bold. Gotta be, with a wife like you," he replied, easing the armor off. Her tunic beneath hugged her frame, and he sat back, hands raised. There. Comfy now. She flexed her shoulders, nodding. Better. You're useful sometimes. High praise, he laughed, flopping back on the cot. Small? Gosh. We've got raiders to dodge tomorrow. Kaelith lay beside him, the cot creaking under their weight. The space was tight, their arms brushing, her warmth seeping into him. Silence stretched, broken only by the hum of Clyros outside. Then she spoke quiet. What happens when this ends? When we're free? Ethan turned his head, meeting her gaze. Dunno. You want to split? No, she said too fast, then looked away. I don't know. Good, he said softer. 'Cause I'm not big on goodbyes either. She frowned, her voice sharp. You trapped me here, Ethan. This bond, it's a chain. He sat up, leaning closer. I don't trap anyone, Vera. I'm here because I want to be. With you. If you want to run, I won't stop you. Her eyes widened, then softened, a storm calming. You're a fool. Yeah. He grinned, inches from her face. But I'm your fool now. She didn't pull away. Her hand gripped his arm, firm, then slid up, hesitant. Ethan tilted her chin, his thumb brushing her jaw, and kissed her. Her lips were warm, fierce, tasting of spice and defiance. The room's orbs dimmed, Clyros' stars spilling through the window like a silver rain, bathing them in light. The kiss deepened, a clash of need and surrender. Outside, the winds of Clyros howled, rustling the crystal forest beyond the city, their chimes a wild song. Shadows merged on the wall, two silhouettes blurring into one, fierce and tender. The air trembled, charged with their heat, as if the planet itself held its breath. The cot groaned, a quiet rhythm lost in the night's pulse, until the stars faded into a soft, violet dawn, leaving only whispers of their union etched in the stillness. Ethan woke first, sunlight spilling across his face. Kaelith stirred beside him, her white hair tangled, her arm draped over his chest. He smiled, brushing a strand from her eyes. Morning, glow stick. She blinked, then smirked, the first real smile he'd seen. You snore, Ethan. And you kick, he shot back, laughing. We're a mess. A good mess, she said, quiet, her hand lingering on him. He nodded, serious now. Yeah, real good. She sat up, her tunic rumpled, her voice steady. I feared this feeling. It's dangerous. Most fun things are, he said, sitting beside her. Worth it. She met his gaze, violet eyes clear. Maybe. Good enough for me, he grinned, hopping up. Come on, let's fix that relay. Gotta tell Mara we're still kicking. As they worked, Ethan's mind drifted. A family, him, her, maybe more. Crazy, sure, but it felt right. Kaelith glanced at him, her own thoughts a tangle. Love was forbidden, a death sentence in Sylvaris. Yet here, with this human, it was a spark she couldn't douse. The relay hummed to life, a lifeline to Earth. Clyros spun on, its markets alive below. But in that cramped room, something new had begun, a bond deeper than any cord Valthyra could weave. The floating markets of Clyros thrummed under a violet sky, platforms swaying gently in the wind. Ethan Voss and Kaelith Vera stepped out of the inn, the comms relay tucked under his arm, its faint hum a lifeline to Earth. The air buzzed with chatter, traders haggling, ships whining overhead, until a sharp crack split the noise. Above the central plaza, a massive hologram flickered to life, Empress Valthyra's silver face looming like a cold moon. Her metallic gown glinted, her voice slicing through the crowd. People of Clyros, she intoned, beware the traitors among you. Kaelith Vera, once my champion, and Ethan Voss, human spy, have betrayed Sylvaris. They are fugitives. Deliver them to me. Ethan froze, skewer halfway to his mouth. Well, damn, we're famous. Kaelith's violet eyes narrowed, scanning the crowd. She's branded us. We're targets now. The hologram shifted, showing their faces, Ethan grinning in his pilot jacket, Kaelith stern in her armor. Murmurs rippled through the market. A four-armed trader pointed, yelling, That's them. A six-winged scavenger hissed, Sylvaris pays big. Eyes turned, greedy and sharp. Time to move, Ethan said, dropping the skewer. Relay's no good if we're dead. Run, Kaelith snapped, shoving him toward an alley. Now, they bolted, weaving through stalls as shouts erupted behind them. A plasma bolt scorched the ground where they'd stood, fired by a Drenver raider, spiked armor, orange eyes glowing. More joined, 3, then 5, their boots pounding the platforms. Ethan yanked Kaelith behind a crate, panting. Guess Valthyra's not big on divorce. She wants us gone, Kaelith said, peering out. No weaknesses. Great, he muttered, pulling his pistol, a sleek Earth model, plasma-charged. Stay low, Vera. We're hitting that bridge. He nodded at a swaying cable bridge linking 2 platforms, a rickety span over a misty abyss. The raiders closed in, their cannons whining. Ethan fired a shot, clipping one in the shoulder. Go, he yelled, shoving Kaelith ahead. They sprinted onto the bridge, its ropes groaning under their weight. Wind howled, tugging at Ethan's jacket, Clyros's purple clouds swirling below. The raiders followed, their shots sizzling past, one blasting a cable loose. The bridge lurched, tilting hard. Nice aim, jerks, Ethan shouted, grabbing the railing. You want to dance? Come get me. Kaelith drew her energy sword, its violet blade humming. Cover me, Ethan. She leapt forward, slashing a raider's cannon in half. He stumbled, toppling into the mist with a scream. Show off. Ethan grinned, firing at another. The bolt hit square, sending the raider sprawling. 2 down. The bridge rocked as a third raider charged, his spiked fist swinging. Kaelith dodged, but the platform shifted, throwing her against Ethan. He caught her, steadying her. You okay, glowstick? Fine, she growled, pushing off. Shoot straighter. Bossy wife, he quipped, blasting the raider off the edge. The bridge steadied, but more footsteps thundered behind. Reinforcements. Too many, Kaelith said, slicing a cable to slow them. We're pinned. Not yet, Ethan replied, holstering his pistol. Take this. He tossed her the gun. Point and shoot like I showed you. She caught it, frowning. This toy? It's crude. Crude but effective, he said, drawing a spare knife. Small? Vera? Ned em. Kaelith aimed, her first shot wild, blasting a crate. Useless, she spat. Relax. Usern left. Do kingoboth. Breathe and squeeze. You've got this. She glared, then fired again. A clean hit, dropping a raider mid-step. Better? She asked, smirking. Much, he winked. Keep it up, sharpshooter. A shadow flickered. Sylvaris soldiers, cloaked in tangerine tech, materializing on the bridge. Ethan cursed. Invisibles? Valthyra's pulling out the big guns. Kaelith swung her sword, catching one mid-air, his cloak sparking out. They're hers, she said, voice tight. Elite guard. Great, Ethan muttered, fishing a lumpy sphere from his pocket. An EMP grenade. Cover your ears, babe. He lobbed it, and a pulse ripped through, frying the cloaks. 3 soldiers blinked into view, stunned. Kaelith pounced, her blade a violet blur, cutting 2 down. Ethan tackled the last, pinning him. Talk, shiny. What's Valthyra want? The soldier sneered, his silver skin glinting. You're dead already, human. Original, Ethan said, knocking him out with the knife hilt. He stood, brushing his hands. Guess we're on our own, Vera. They stumbled off the bridge, collapsing behind a stack of barrels on the next platform. Kaelith's chest heaved, her sword dimming. She's not just hunting us, she said low. She's planning war. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Va? With who? Earth, Kaelith replied, her violet eyes dark. I saw files before the duel. Bioweapons, designed to wipe out your colonies. She's been building them for years. He whistled, leaning back. That's a hell of a honeymoon surprise. Why tell me now? Because she hesitated, her voice cracking. I can't go back. Sylvaris is my home, but she's poison. You're not. Ethan studied her, serious for once. That's a big leap, glow stick. Sure about this? No, she admitted, gripping her sword. But I trust you. Foolish as that is. Foolish is my specialty. He grinned, clapping her shoulder. Okay, we got a war to stop. First, we ditch these clowns. A roar overhead. Another raider ship, cannons glowing. Ethan yanked her down as a bolt scorched the barrels. "New plan," he yelled. "Run like hell." They bolted, zigzagging through the market, raiders on their heels. Kaelith fired the pistol, her shots steadier now, dropping a pursuer. "Your toy's growing on me," she said, breathless. "Told ya." Ethan laughed, dodging a blast. "How much they paying these guys? I'd sell myself cheaper." She smirked, a rare spark in her eyes. "You're worth less." "Ouch!" He clutched his chest, mock-wounded. "That's my wife, folks." They ducked into an alley, the ship's engines fading as they lost it in the maze. Kaelith slumped against a wall, her emerald skin slick with sweat. "I betrayed everything," she murmured. "For this. For you." Ethan crouched beside her, voice soft. "Hey, you didn't betray. You chose. Big difference." Her violet eyes met his, torn but steady. "Ishuz Kau. Best kind," he said, squeezing her arm. "Stick with me, Vera. We'll figure it out." She nodded, a faint resolve settling in. The market hummed around them, oblivious to the storm brewing beyond the stars, a war they'd just stumbled into, with no way back. The stolen freighter rattled through the void, a patchwork of rust and dents patched together with Ethan Voss's quick fixes. Its engines groaned, pushing past Clyrose's violet haze into the black expanse beyond. Inside, Ethan hunched over the pilot's console, his green eyes flicking between controls, while Kaelith Vera sat nearby, her emerald skin dim under the flickering lights. The hum of the ship was a steady pulse, a fragile shield against the chaos they'd left behind. "Piece of junk," Ethan muttered, smacking the dashboard as it beeped. "Come on, don't die on me now." Kaelith shifted, her violet eyes narrowing. "You said it'd hold. It will," he grinned, leaning back. "Just need some love. Like us." She snorted, crossing her arms. "Keep dreaming, human." A sharp gasp cut through their banter. Kaelith doubled over, clutching her stomach, her face twisting in pain. Ethan bolted upright. "Whoa, Vera. You okay?" "No," she hissed, her voice tight. "Something's wrong. Hold on." He lunged for the comms, yelling into the static. "Doc, get up here now." A wiry Earth medic, Dr. Lena Hayes, stumbled in, her short hair a mess, a scanner in hand. "What's the emergency, Voss? She stabbed you yet?" "Not yet," Ethan said, stepping aside. "Check her. She's hurting." Lena knelt beside Kaelith, running the scanner, a glowing 3D grid projecting over her abdomen. It beeped, then flashed red. Lena's eyes widened. "Holy hell. She's pregnant." Ethan blinked, jaw-dropping. "Say what now?" "Pregnant," Lena repeated, staring at the hologram. A tiny form, half human, half Sylvaris, pulsing with two faint lights. DNA's mixed. Shouldn't be possible with her biology, but there it is. Kaelith's breath hitched, her hand pressing her stomach. "No, that can't." "Apparently it can." Ethan cut in, grinning despite the shock. "Guess I'm more potent than I thought." Lena glared. "Not the time, Voss." She turned to Kaelith. "You feel it? Kicks yet?" Kaelith nodded, slow, her violet eyes wide. "Yes. Small, but there." The crew, 5 scruffy Earth spacers, crowded the doorway, gaping. One, a burly guy named Riggs, whistled. "Alien baby? That's Wild, boss." "Wild my middle name," Ethan quipped, then softened, crouching by Kaelith. "You good glow stick?" She didn't answer, her hand trembling over her belly, light rippling under her skin like a heartbeat. This is impossible," she whispered. "Sylvaris don't." "Guess I broke the rules," Ethan said, his voice gentle. "We broke him together." A crackle interrupted, comms flaring to life. A hologram flickered, revealing Zorith, an old Sylvaris sage, his silver skin etched with age, eyes like dying stars. "Kaelith Vera," he rasped. "I've waited for this." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Who's the grandpa?" "Zorith," Kaelith said, straightening despite the pain. "My mentor." "Speak, elder." The sage's hologram shifted, projecting an image, a temple of glowing stone, the Lyrian, its walls carved with ancient runes. "The child you carry," Zorith said, "is the one foretold." the child of two lights, born of warrior and stranger to end the wars of stars. Ethan whistled. Big job for a little guy. Or girl, Kaelith snapped, then turned to Zorith. How? Why now? The prophecy sleeps until fate wakes it, Zorith replied. Valthyra's war stirs the cosmos. Your child is the key, peace or ruin. Bring it to Lyrian. The resistance waits. The hologram faded, leaving silence. Ethan scratched his head. So, we're cosmic parents now? Cool. Kaelith glared, but her hand stayed on her stomach, protective. This changes everything, she said, voice low. I'm afraid. Of what? Ethan asked, scooting closer. The kid? Or us? Both, she admitted, her violet eyes searching his. Sylvaris kill for less. Love children, it's death there. I feel it growing. Alive. Ethan took her hand, firm. Listen, Vera. No one's touching you or that kid. Not Valthyra, not her goons. I'll burn the stars down first. She squeezed back, a faint smile breaking through. You're mad, Ethan. Mad for you. He winked, then stood. Crew, set course for Lyrian. We got a prophecy to crash. Riggs groaned. More trouble? I signed up for cargo, not hero stuff. Hero stuff pays better. Ethan shot back, clapping his shoulder. Move it. The freighter lurched, engines whining as it banked toward Sylvaris space. Kaelith watched Ethan, her fear softening into something warmer. You're serious, she said. Protecting us. Dead serious, he replied, sitting beside her. Always wanted a family. Didn't think it'd be this wild, but I'm in. She smirked, a rare lightness in her voice. You'll teach it your awful jokes? First lesson, he grinned. Gotta laugh at the galaxy, or it laughs at you. A siren blared, sensors flashing red. Lena dashed to the console. Sylvaris ships. 3 closing fast. Ethan cursed, jumping to the controls. Valthyra's got a nose for trouble. Riggs guns. Kaelith shields. I'm no technician, she protested, but stumbled to the panel. Push the glowy buttons, Ethan said, banking hard. We're dodging till Lyrian. The ship rocked, a blast grazing the hull. Kaelith hit the shields, a faint barrier flickering up. This junk will kill us, she yelled. Not today. Ethan laughed, spinning through debris. Hang on, Mama Bear. Don't call me that, she snapped, but a chuckle slipped out, her first real laugh. The crew gaped, then grinned. Keep laughing, Vera, Ethan said, dodging another shot. Makes us harder to hit. Lena shouted. They're gaining. We can't outrun him. Then we hide. Ethan replied, diving toward an asteroid field. Hold tight. The freighter wove through rocks, Sylvaris ships fading behind. Kaelith gripped her seat, her hand on her belly. If we die, I blame you, she said. Fair, Ethan grinned. But we're living glow stick. For that kid. She nodded, resolve hardening. For the child. The asteroids loomed, a jagged maze. Lyrian waited beyond. A beacon, a hope, and a fight they couldn't avoid. The freighter shuddered as it touched down on Lyrian's shimmering plains, a world of silver dust and jagged peaks. The temple of Lyrian loomed ahead, a fortress of glowing crystal, its spires piercing the violet sky, pulsing with an ancient light. Ethan Voss stepped out, his boots crunching the ground, Kaelith Vera beside him, her hand resting on her swollen belly. Her emerald skin glowed faintly, her violet eyes sharp despite the strain. Around them, ships landed, Earth freighters, Clyro's skiffs, even rogue Sylvaris defectors, forming a ragtag alliance. Looks like a party, Ethan said, squinting at the crowd. Hope they brought snacks. Kaelith smirked, leaning on him. You think of food now. Always, he winked, then shouted, All right, folks. Inside, we've got a war to stop. The temple's hall was a kaleidoscope of light, its walls etched with runes that danced like stars. Leaders gathered, a Clyro's birdman with 6 wings, an Earth captain with a scarred face, a Sylvaris rebel with silver braids. Voices clashed, sharp and loud. We can't trust Sylvaris, the Earth captain snapped. They'll stab us in the back. The Empress is the enemy, not us, the rebel countered, her eyes blazing. Enough, Ethan yelled, climbing onto a crate. You want to bicker or win? Valthyra's coming, and she's got bioweapons to meld us all. We fight together, or we're toast. The Birdman clicked his beak. And you lead us, human. Nah, Ethan grinned. I just fly the ship. But I say we hit her first, right here. Kaelith stepped up, her voice steady. Lyrian's light judges truth. Bring her to it. The child, she touched her belly, is proof. Murmurs rippled, then nods. The captain grunted. Fine, let's move. A roar split the sky. Sylvaris warships, sleek and deadly, descending like vultures. Ethan cursed. Party crashers. Rigs guns. Kaelith with me. The Alliance scrambled, ships lifting off, cannons blazing. Ethan dragged Kaelith toward the temple's core, a chamber of blinding light. Outside, plasma bolts rained, scorching the plains. Kaelith drew her sword, its violet blade humming. They're close, she said, grim. Good. Ethan replied, pistol ready. I'm tired of running. Sylvaris soldiers stormed the temple, their armor glinting, led by Valthyra herself, her metallic gown a cascade of blades, her golden eyes burning. Traitors, she hissed, her voice a venomous song. You dare defy me? Ethan fired, a bolt sizzling past her. Yeah, we dare. Bad day to be you, lady. Kaelith charged, her sword clashing with Valthyra's energy whip, a crackling lash of gold. You poisoned Sylvaris. Kaelith shouted, slashing. Your war ends here. Valthyra laughed, dodging. You're weak, child. Love broke you. No. Kaelith growled, striking again. It freed me. The temple's light flared, runes glowing brighter, casting shadows that writhed like judges. Ethan tackled a soldier, wrestling him down. Stay away from my wife, Shiny. He glanced at Kaelith. You good, Vera? Focus, Ethan, she yelled, parrying Valthyra's whip. The light pulsed, a wave slamming Valthyra back. She stumbled, her gown sparking. What's this? She snarled, shielding her eyes. Truth, Kaelith said, stepping forward, sword raised. You've killed for power, mothers, warriors, worlds. This child, she touched her belly, will heal what you broke. The light surged, wrapping Valthyra like chains. She screamed, her voice cracking, then sank to her knees, her golden eyes dulling. Impossible, she whispered, collapsing, broken. Ethan whistled, holstering his gun. Nice speech, glow stick. Remind me not to piss you off. Kaelith glared, then winced, clutching her stomach. Ethan, it's time. Time. He froze, then yelled, Doc, get in here. Lena bolted in, scanner ready. Now? In a damn war zone. Baby's got timing. Ethan laughed, helping Kaelith to the floor. The temple's lights softened, bathing them in silver as Lena worked. Kaelith gripped Ethan's hand, her breath sharp. Stay with me, Vera, he said, squeezing back. You got this. She nodded, pushing through the pain, her emerald skin glowing brighter. A cry pierced the air, a tiny voice, strong and clear. Lena lifted a child. Lyrian, her skin a blend of green and tan, hair brown like Ethan's, eyes violet like Kaelith's. The temple's runes flared, a chorus of approval. Ethan grinned, teary. Hey, little glow stick, look at you. Kaelith smiled, exhausted. Ours. The Alliance cheered outside, the warships retreating. Hours later, the hall hosted a new scene. Leaders signing a heap UOC, papers glowing under the temple's light. Ethan stood beside Kaelith, Lyrian in her arms. Your turn, he said, nudging her. Kaelith spoke, voice firm. No more war. Sylvaris, Earth Klyros, we build together. The Birdman clicked. Wise words, mother of peace. Ethan stepped up, grinning. Humans don't bow easy, but we're damn good friends. Let's make it stick. Hands shook, paper sealed. The crowd roared, light pulsing in celebration. 3 years later, a balcony overlooked a rebuilt Arindril, its spires softer, warmer. Ethan leaned on the railing, Kaelith beside him, Lyrian, now a toddler, chasing a floating orb. Her laughter rang, a mix of human and Sylvaris tones. She's fast, Ethan said, grinning. Gets that from me. Kaelith smirked. And the noise from you. Team effort. He laughed, pulling her close. Ship or sword for her first lesson? Both, Kaelith replied, kissing his cheek. She's ours. The orb zipped away, Lyrian giggling after it, and the stars above shone brighter. A galaxy at peace, for now.